So for this problem, it says the square root of negative 10 squared. What we need to do for this is remember, what does squaring mean? If I say 3 squared, that means 3 times 3, right? So this means square root of negative 10 times the square root of negative 10. Now, before we get into anything crazy, I want to use the principal square root method to simplify this. All right, we can't take the square root of negative 10. So when solving this, why don't we take a look at one way to solve this is let's rewrite this using the square root principle. I can rewrite these as 10 times square root of negative 1 times square root of 10 times square root of negative 1. All right, that was the square root principle. It was in your notes. We talked about it. So this can now be the square root of 10i. This can be times the square root of 10i, as square root of negative 1 is negative 10i. Now, when I multiply them, I get the square root of 10 squared, which is, well, remember, square root of 10 squared, so you're square rooting 100, which would give you 10, times I, which is I squared. I squared is negative 1. Final answer is negative 10. Yes? It does. I times I gives you I squared, and then I squared was negative 1. Negative 1 times 10 gave me negative 10. Oh, yes. Okay. I see what you're, I skipped a step. Right? It works for radicals. You can break it into 10 times negative 1, and then break those up into square root of 10 times square root of negative 1. I'm going to do one real quick. What was I going to do? We're going to do 4 times 9. You know what that answer is, right? Check all 4 of those. You'll see that it all works. Yes?
Whenever you did the square root of 10i times the square root of 10i and you get 10i squared, why wouldn't it be 10i? Because if you multiplied the 10 and the 10 and it gave you 100 and then took the square root, that gives you 10. So why wouldn't you multiply the i and then take the square root off?
Be careful with I try not to represent it. It's hard sometimes when you have the I after the 10. That's not the square root of I. It's only the square root of 10. Huh? It's separate from the square root of 10. So if I wanted to rewrite this multiplication problem, you could actually write it like this. Square root of 10 times square root of 10 times I times I. Okay? You could write it like that if you wanted to. You just got to know it is not the square root of 10i, like that. It's just the square root of 10 times I. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. Any other last questions on this? Do you see how that works, though, now? Okay. Good. Because that's one of the things that a lot of students always